right, the question is, when can I replace my software developers with AI? The short answer is, you can't. There you go, we are done. Well, maybe not yet, anyway, so let us explain. But before we do, a short introduction of who we are and why we're on the stage.
I'm Paul Seymour, I'm a software developer. I'm one of the co-CEOs with Patient Zero, which is a kind of enterprise software development consultancy. We primarily put teams into government and larger enterprise customers. And I also have a smaller company called 10,000 Spoons that I co-founded with Demelza.
Yes, which addresses the other end of the market, startups, small businesses, and those that have a much lower budget. And so it's all centered around software development. So you can imagine we've got a big interest in this area. My specialties are everything but software engineering, think product, UX, delivery, testing, although I can claim vibe coding now because I've also been getting my hands on those tools. So Act 1, the reality distortion field. It was November 30th, 2022. We all know what happened then, the Great Awakening. ChatGPT launches. And you got all these sorts of claims that are out there. This guy making these claims before ChatGPT even launches that programmers are now 10 times more productive. And then a year later, he's now saying they're 2 to 3 times more productive.
Next year,
and then these guys.
Development is going to be done by AI.
Already the current models of AI, they can code better than 60, 70% of coders, and highly skilled jobs that pay really good salaries. A lot of that work is going to go away.
We believe as an industry that in the next 1 year, the vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers.
What we are finding is we are not far from the world. I think we'll be there in 3 to 6 months, where AI is writing 90% of the code.
Those hype machines. White-collar jobs are also done for, right? Like this is not just software engineering. And every single big consulting firm out there is saying this, Gartner as well. And they're still saying this, that 2030, 30% of jobs will be automated. And for us, that led to Act 2, our existential dread.
This is actually us, and that is the sort of clothing Demelza wears to the beach. But we actually did have this moment of crisis because, we're a consultancy. Pretty much most of our company is involved in software development, and all of these industry leaders are telling us software development is going to go away. Our company's going to go away. Caused a lot of stress inside our company. We had junior developers saying, maybe I should just get out of the game now, go back, do medicine. We had one person talking about that. We had senior developers that actually even refused to talk about AI. We have sort of these company lunch and learns where we do talks on various things, and one particular developer said, I just don't want to hear anything at all about AI. We spent a lot of time in conferences, not necessarily AI-based conferences, but every single conference for probably 3 years, including this one. Every talk is about AI.
AI.
And I guess, at the moment we're supposed to be in that trough of disillusionment, but I kind of felt like that all the time. It was like, the tooling could do this, AI was amazing, and then we would try and use it and get it to do the things that people were saying it could do. And our experience was always different, but you didn't want to admit that because, we're a consultancy and we're supposed to know how this stuff works.
Someone's doing it somewhere, clearly, surely.
We don't have much of a middle management layer in our company. So we were also trying to look at outside of software development, what are the potential impacts it could have. And we decided to have a look at the leadership at the company.
I think it's difficult to see exactly how this experiment will turn out.
And ultimately, the 3 of us are not enough to really run this business. So we introduced the AI co-CEO.
So this is Dan.
He
is our other CEO.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of our 4th now because this is digital Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually works pretty well. He most of the time when we ask him advice, he says, you guys should get therapy.
Which is what Real Dan says a lot of the time. We've really toned it down for you because we can get really quite weird. But all of the hype out there was saying that AI is going to be part of your team, right? And we are a company that is about team dynamics. Software development is a team sport. So how does that even work? Is the AI a physical thing that you can talk to and it talks back and it makes decisions? Like, what does that actually mean when someone says that it's part of your team? So we've been experimenting with that.
Yeah.
But Act 3, the sad reality.
So we're trying to use this tooling, and a lot of our customers, larger enterprise customers, government, are saying you can't use AI. And they have a number of reasons for that.
IP.
They're concerned about, IP leakage. Some of it, I think, is a bit of a misunderstanding as to what developers actually use AI for, but it's a concern, and getting decisions made that allow us to use it was very difficult.
Which is very similar to the privacy and security concerns. And I was talking to a SaaS company, and they don't want any of their proprietary software to be exposed to AI at all, because like that's their money maker, right? So they're very scared, and they have banned for the entire organization, which does include developers.
And cost. And so a lot of the time it's, they realize the solution to this is maybe to use, private hosting models, even some on-prem models are possible now, but they're costly and they don't really want to sign up to that.
And it's also obviously a whole organization, as we know, that's looking to introduce AI into every single business unit. So the cost isn't just for software engineers, it's as an organization as a whole. Great tool, Copilot.
I know. We would look at customers that said, we've rolled out AI, we've switched on Copilot for everybody, and then we'd go and have a look at what they were using it for. It's mostly autocomplete, kind of a new form of it.
Performance improvement there. But it's also the vibe coding area. That's me now.
Yeah. So that's Andre. So the interesting thing about this, if you don't know, is the guy that coined vibe coding as a term, a very famous Twitter post. He's a computer scientist. He's an absolutely brilliant programmer. And he would never put code that he doesn't understand into production, right? But somehow vibe coding became this whole thing where you can just talk to an LLM and somehow you've got production-ready code out the end of it.
Yeah, it's the new citizen developer, right? So now we've got access to a whole nother set of tooling to get in there and muck around and make big messes alongside junior developers.
So this was probably one of the more interesting things for us. We did roll out a lot of AI tooling quite early on, and we discovered that junior developers can create big messes. It's interesting, I was on a panel last week and somebody was saying that if you combine junior developers with good AI tooling, you essentially get at least intermediate level developers or potentially senior level developers. And that's certainly not been our experience.
No, but he was in Python, right? So it's not even enterprise level framework or language.
Don't be mean to Python,
Well, you were mean to that guy on stage about Python. You like real computing languages.
Yeah, well, anyway. So we did learn junior devs can create a really big mess, and they also have the problem is they're not learning when they're using AI. Quite often they're bypassing a lot of the cognitive functions and skills that they'll need to develop to turn into good developers. So it turned out to be a bit of a problem for us.
Yeah, and they don't even know the questions to even ask, the Minos paradox. They don't even know the unknown unknowns. So again, they don't even have navigative expertise, so they don't even know what they don't know yet. So how are they actually able to validate the output of what's being returned? So it's very, very dangerous. But talking about juniors, people have stopped employing them.
Yeah, so the industry response to this was we can essentially replace junior developers with AI. I think we heard something in the keynote about in the legal profession, they're not taking grads on anymore. It's not good. I mean, we have, I think, Atlassian and Canva, we know, have stopped taking a lot of grad devs. The big consultancies have stopped taking them on. That's going to create a massive problem in our industry.
And when we put a job advert out there, so maybe we get usually about 500 applicants, it's now well over the 1,000 mark that's actually coming back for junior engineers. So there's a lot of people that are getting educated and now they don't have a place to go in the market. But there's still a problem when it comes to juniors and using AI or LLMs, because in our recent intake, which was in February, so things have changed since then, we found that 45% of the candidates couldn't comprehend their own code. Now, we do a coding challenge, as a few different challenges as part of our recruitment process. And part of it, because of AI, means we have to have a one-on-one in person with that person and get them to take us through the reasoning behind the decisions that they've made in code. And 45% couldn't actually comprehend it, resulting in the fact that they had used AI.
Just to get to this stage in our recruitment process, these are generally people with six or higher GPA, 6 out of 7. Usually most of them are double degrees, and we're finding they can't explain the code that they've submitted through the code challenges.
Yeah, but if they can explain it and they've used AI, I think that's a good thing. But it's not all about years experience, it's actually about capability. You can have seniors out there that have got 20 years experience. It does not mean they're a capable developer whatsoever. So that's quite a problem, because bad code is still bad code.
I think this is kind of an interesting thing in terms of LLMs. Like I've been trying to figure out exactly where this is going to go, particularly in relation to large language models. And I think some of the more interesting research that's come out lately has been around the error tails in LLMs, because we know that to get the type of code, to get to a point where we can replace a lot of development with AI, we need better error rates than we currently have. And there was quite an interesting paper, probably only came out about 3 weeks ago, where they looked at the projected energy consumption to train LLMs to, I think they looked at 1 or 2 or 3 orders of magnitude better error rates than they currently have. And they were talking about more energy than is in the entire Milky Way galaxy to get there. So that kind of tells me that we are probably not going to get there with LLMs. There is going to have to be another discovery of the order of magnitude of transformer or something that actually gets us to the models that have the mathematical certainty that you need to be able to generate large volumes of code.
And there is a quality issue. So maybe you're getting more productivity about actually cutting code, but there's the quality issue at the other end. And now 67% in the study done by Harness of developers spend more time debugging AI-generated code, and they spend 68% more time resolving security vulnerabilities. And now when we're talking about in the enterprise context, that is obviously really, really important. And they're also having a lot of issues with their deployment, like using AI for deployment tools as well. So everything following now in the software development lifecycle after cutting code is having more and more issues. There was some report by Microsoft as well recently.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's come out about the complexity of the systems that you can engineer with AI. And if you don't understand what they're doing, sooner or later it's going to bite you. And I think we've definitely seen that with a lot of orchestration, because you can do very complicated pipelines and have a lot of that horrible YAML generated by AI. You still got to understand it. At some point, something's going to go wrong, and you need somebody that can understand it.
But apart from that, we've still got senior developers always need something to argue about. There's a reason why you can't have too many of them in one team. But now it's about AI tooling. We're past cloud, we're past frameworks.
There's languages, frameworks, libraries. Now it's what model should we use? What IDE do we need to use? So,
and it's important to have the same one, right?
It is, yeah. If you're, if you're trying to have consistent output across the team, then you need to agree on a lot of the prompting, and you need to basically use the same models. So we've seen issues with teams, different people in different teams using different models, and quite inconsistent output from that.
and the models are still evolving, so you've got that in the mix as well. So ultimately, for enterprise complexity, AI is not quite there, although there's small use cases around the side where it can. But in the whole scheme of it, it's not quite there where we need it to be yet. And you still got CFOs. Any CFOs in the room? No, they don't come to these conferences. Good. Apparently the biggest question that the Gartner guys actually get from CFOs is, when can I fire my software developers? Hence the theme and the title of this talk. That is the most common question that they get. So they're out there trying to get rid of software development.
The interesting thing, though, is I think their focus has shifted to project managers more recently. So
oh yeah,
I'm okay
the
with
white-collared clean out of middle management. Even though 95% of AI pilot projects are still failing to deliver ROI. So there's money being spent,
yeah,
failing. But you hope that they would be learning from it.
That was the same statistic as waterfall projects as well. So I feel like it's history repeating itself.
Yeah. But organizations don't even have the basics sorted when it comes to software development. We get engaged for two different reasons. It's capacity, but it's primarily around capability. And so we help uplift that capability with our augmented team model. So we'll tend to have a developer or two from a customer side augment our model, and we show good practice by doing and working together on a project. It's the fastest and best way to actually learn what these practices are about. But again, a lot of those organizations, there's some real basics that can get you 2 to 3 times more productive without even having AI in the mix. Like test automation. A lot of people think that's really complex to do, or it's very costly to do, or maybe you are doing it and you're not even doing the right approach to test automation, but there should be very little manual testing in the whole software development lifecycle, if done right.
Refactoring and addressing tech debt, again, like these are all basic software development principles that are a decade or more old, and yet by and large we see them either not implemented at all or very minimal implementations of them. Yet they give massive increases. So people hunting for a 5 or 10% performance boost through AI, and there's all of this other stuff that's left on the table that they can fix.
Yeah, and so developers should be spending 30% of their time on this, but the problem comes as business stakeholders say, I want features, I want more features, and I want them now. Little do they know that if they let developers do this, the features will come faster, or
and
they
the funny
will be
thing here is,
slower
I've heard a lot of I was going to say I've heard a lot of people saying they think AI is going to be able to help them address the tech debt. But the interesting thing is when you train models on some of those large, messy code bases, you unsurprisingly get messy outputs out of them.
And it's really struggling to actually help out in this area. Tech silos and gates, we love that. Anything that's a dependency outside of a development team is going to be a tech silo and gate, from security to architecture to infrastructure, DevOps teams, whatever their shape or form, but that creates massive delays. So it's all about enabling, obviously, the people in the team to do the right thing and have the capability of doing it. Every handoff is very, very costly in time, especially all the meetings you've got to have to convince someone that that might not be your top priority, but that's ours and we're blocked.
But they are good candidates to replace with AI. If you want to get rid of your architecture review board and put an AI there, I'm like, go for it. Pizza team sizes, so again, small teams. They were saying at Gartner they were looking at team sizes down to 2. I don't think
Tiny teams.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a bit of a struggle. We find 4 to 5 people, so maybe 4 devs, 5 devs, and then sort of some of the adjacent skill sets around design, product ownership and so on. Much larger than that, you tend to have too many communication pathways. Much smaller than that, you just don't get the range of skills and the diversity of viewpoints that you need to be successful.
Yeah, value-based decisions, so actually prioritising what's actually going to give you value and getting that out to market quick. These long release cycles of even a month, 3 months, 6 months that can be out there, that's slowing down value of getting things out to customers, which leads into
co-design. So inside the development team, you have the group of people that are more familiar than anybody else with the actual application, and quite often developers are left out of that design loop. So that can save you a lot of time, include them more in the design process, include them more in understanding the roadmaps and the priorities. That can lead to a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, good architectural patterns as well. So the way that code is actually structured, not solution architecture. We're talking within code to make developers productive.
And that leads to happy developers. So dev experience is kind of the new sort of DevOps buzzword, but developer experience is all about how do you have developers that spend a lot of time in flow state, are able to produce, lots of high quality code.
DevX. And so in the Gartner report, 53% say the impact of AI on team productivity to be 10% or less. And in our conversations with them, that is the top performers. Like they have the best software engineering practices. This is talking about enterprise here, right? They're usually seeing somewhere maybe around 2 to 4% at people who are good, maybe not like the greatest, but what are we talking about when we're talking about productivity? Are we talking about time spent coding? Because that's actually a lot less than what people think.
Yeah, so your average developer spends roughly 90 to 95% of their time, their coding time, reading code. And then there's maybe 5 to 10% of that actually spent typing code. And then, of course, you take out the other chunk with all the meetings and everything else. There's not actually that much time each developer spends outputting code.
And so if you took that 10% productivity, let's assume, over the time reading and writing, you got 18 minutes saved. Is that enough to get a task done or a feature done? Not really, but it's enough time for a coffee. And devs are already working overtime. They're actually really, really passionate about what they do, and they're distracted throughout their entire day continuously with meetings and Slack messages and team messages or whatever you're using that pulls them out of flow state, and they need flow state. So 88% of devs are actually working over 40 hours a week already, so they actually have time to solve those problems. And they are reporting burnout. Now, 98% believe AI tools are a way to reduce that burnout. So if you're wondering where is my performance improvement here, maybe some developers are just taking their time back that they didn't have before.
I think the other risk there is that when they're talking about burnout, sometimes they're talking about cognitive load, right? And if you take, cognitive load is kind of like exercise. If you take too much of that thinking time away and replace it with AI, you can actually wind up with developers that are more like architects. Yeah, I'm not going to go any further there.
Who have you got on the room? I don't know. All right, Act 4. It's not all doom and gloom. Well, Paul likes to say it's all doom and gloom, always. All right, code reviews and pattern reinforcement.
So we found AI to be really useful here. We use it a lot when we're investigating foreign code bases, particularly pointing us towards where the more interesting bits or the contentious pieces of the code base will be. Sometimes these processes would take us days or weeks to get through, and now we can use AI to kind of narrow in on the interesting bits within hours a lot of the time.
You can also figure out what features are actually there, what the workflows are, all of those things that you've got to try and draw out of people, or lack of documentation around what something actually does, so that helps a lot as well.
Pipeline code review processes, so if you're going to automate this stuff, as we sort of mentioned earlier, you can replace some of the gates in your pipeline with various AI checks, and that has been very helpful. The thing that you've got to understand about all of these is they are tolerant of error rates, right? So they don't have to be perfect, and that's why they work well in these processes.
And if you do recruitment tests like we do with coding challenges, where we tend to get 20 delivered on one day and we've got to get through them all, we leverage AI for that too. Boilerplating? Yeah,
enterprise code bases have a lot of superfluous code. I guess if you look at the ratio of, let's say, actual domain-specific business logic to all of the other stuff that makes the code base testable, observable, loggable, auditable, there is a lot of boilerplate code. And in well-structured code bases that follow good patterns, AI is actually very useful for taking the load of a lot of that boilerplate generation.
Cursor front-end wizardry. So we have done this twice now in practice and in specific use cases. So this one, 0 to MVP for apps in 2 weeks is what we're able to do. And this is actually an app modernization strategy, which is a rewrite, a replace. There was a current set of apps that were being migrated from Xamarin to Maui, and they'd been running for quite a few months, and they were struggling with that upgrade. So we were spawned off as a team to see, could we get something ready to market in a short period of time with React Native? And we were able to. But we had designs up front because the app already existed. We had known requirements because, again, the app already existed. And the API was ready.
Yeah, but the most important thing here was there was a massive financial penalty for the company if they did not get these apps up. So they removed all the gates, and that allowed the team to go very fast. And going fast doesn't mean that you compromise on quality or security. It just means that the processes that you use enable you to iterate over that stuff very quickly.
And this is a multi-billion international company, so you can imagine how many gates there actually were. But we've done it again, we've just done it recently in a couple of apps, also web or responsive in 2 weeks. So there are some wins there. And I think this one actually is supposed to be in the other section because welcome to LLMs, the new Stack Overflow, which is where devs get help to solve problems. It has been good for a lot of experimentation and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And we've seen a lot of experimentation to get people on board. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are still lagging in that space. They're still afraid to try the tooling. So doing things like hackathons, we generally run a couple ourselves every year. We have run them for organizations as well, just getting people familiar with the capability. And as you were saying sort of earlier, we're talking about this, that it's also about not being afraid to fail, because if it is just something that's potentially throwaway, you can really sort of go at it without that fear of failing.
AI red teaming, so we run a lot of red team activities, but more recently we've been running sort of AI focused, both from the vulnerability side, but also from prompt injection. And we found that's been really helpful with the teams in trying to understand how to use this tooling and particularly where it can be exploited.
And quick prototyping. So especially for product people who don't have UX skills, if you've got an idea, you can now prompt it into existence and then use that as a way to sort of demonstrate what it is that you're trying to achieve, get feedback, and go from there.
So all of this fits into, the old Sorcerer's Apprentice tale, right? Where AI is a form of magic, and I guess to harness that magic, it can sort of be put into the hands of the apprentices, and the junior devs, and you can potentially get a really big mess. You need the masters in there, those senior developers that actually understand what the output should be and know how to help the more junior people understand how to use this tooling. To me, that's kind of the critical takeaway. Those people are just crucial to the whole mix of this now.
But you can have AI as a mentor, and if someone's coding at 12 p.m, because some do, they've actually got someone to talk to and work through problems as well as part of that, which can be a benefit. The person who is sitting right there. The people angle. So we're working for actually as an aged care organisation, and they're really looking at this as shifting the entire culture of the organisation. And what they're doing is they're changing their sort of hiring processes. They are talking to org psychologists to understand what are those key attributes in people that are very innovative and really do sort of adopt these tools and want to experiment in the right way. And so that's leading to also changing the role of what is the role definition? Who are the types of people you are looking for? And what is it that they're actually doing? And where does AI actually fit into that role description? And that means you also look to your organization of, are those people already here? How do you lift them up? If you can't lift them up, are you going to train them up? Or the reality is, are you going to remove them? Because you now need to look at that talent density that Gartner talks about. And we've always been talking about that in our teams. It's like with our augmentation model. We know we have to keep minimum 50% of our people in the team to keep the momentum going in the right way. Otherwise, we can be pulled backwards into old practices that don't result in the output that we're looking for. And also to learn from people who have done it. So in that call out to, there was quite a few different organizations, about 50 organizations they reached out to, have you done any of this? They managed to find 2 people. They're bringing them in to do lunch and learns in their organizations so they can get some real practical use cases. So in the wrap up.
Rumours of the demise of software engineering have been greatly exaggerated.
Now this was a Gartner quote, but we had to remove the
Yeah,
Gartner.
we weren't allowed to
It's
put it.
2024, it's too old. But the reality is, in small projects, new startup projects, you're getting the most acceleration. Or, again, you've got the right composable architecture in your sort of enterprise setting, that around the edges you can get some of that extremely fast acceleration. And some key takeaways.
Get the basics right. So Space and DORA is still worthwhile metric. Space, if you're not aware of it, sort of looks at developer experience, and DORA is more looking at the capability of good development teams. Invest
in your team, like that is going to cost money. Maybe the talent that you're looking for does cost 20 to 30%, maybe not the meta multi-million-dollar sort of cost, but to get the right people means you're probably going to invest in a bit and to train them.
Yep, rolling out Copilot's not a magic solution to anything.
That's right, and it's only one part of the flow. And evolve your culture, because, I mean, just like agile transformation, we're not allowed to say agile anymore because it's a really dirty, dirty word. But the reason why transformations fail is because it's actually a cultural shift, and it needs to start from the top, and it will always fail if it does not start from the top. So just like this, you've got to change your culture.
Listen to people who aren't hype machines. They will just make you feel bad. Yep.
First of all, I think the number is going to be more like 20 to 30% of the code could get written by AI, not 90. Are there some really simple use cases? Yes, but there's an equally complicated number of ones where it's going to be 0. So you take the blend, and I arrive at about 30%.
Smart man. Really, really smart man. And we saw him in South by in Austin earlier this year. And we've been going to all these conferences for the last couple of years trying to figure out what this all actually means. We heard that and we were like,
Finally somebody whose experience kind of aligned with what we were seeing.
Yeah, that's right. And we actually met 2 Gartner guys who, they're American-based, and they had a talk that was talking about the tsunami of software engineering demand that's coming for us. So it was a big shift in what we've been hearing for the last couple of years. But the question we always get is like, so if we do this, like what sort of productivity increase do we get? Like, is it 1 times, 2 times? Do I get 10% if I do this? The answer is, unfortunately, always the answer to life, user, universe, and everything, 42. Because everyone's context is completely different. The people, your organization, your culture, your software products, like.
Yeah, but the one thing you can say, it is probably not what the hype machine is saying.
Yeah.
Not at this point.
Yeah, allow everyone to switch off from Teams, Slack, give them at least half a day when they're uninterrupted. You'd probably get double the output now. So anyway, that is us, the end. There is a QR code if you'd like to scan and follow us on LinkedIn. It gets pretty weird up there. Apparently we're known to be quite entertaining, but we do have some insights that come through all of the noise too.
Very rarely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.